Well, I'm running for council because I believe that experience is really needed at this time in our history. I think there are so many changes that are occurring within the city and within the region that we really need people on councils who have some experience and have some knowledge and have the skills that can deal with all of these changes. We're going to have a number of people moving into our region and particularly in our city that we need to be ready for this. And so I think that I'm really pleased to be running and to have that experience to represent you well.
I'm a mother, a grandmother, a business owner, former audit and fraud specialist, and a fed up taxpayer. I'm running for city council because I feel it's a job that you actually can represent the people that elected you, not like in the federal and the provincial. It's very concerning to me that most of the city councilors and mayors have lost touch with realities and turned their backs on the people of Cambridge. They recklessly spend our money, hard-earned tax dollars, with zero accountability. We work too hard for our money. Public servants are servants of the people and need to start acting that way. As your councillor, I will freeze both residential and business property taxes for the next 3 years and cut unnecessary spending. I will increase housing stock by cutting red tape, unnecessary fees, and studies to build quicker. Have more community involvement, work closer with the police to give them the necessary resources to make our streets and neighbors safer.
Thank you. Thanks for giving me the opportunity. My name is Eric Decor. I live in Cambridge Ward 1, and I've been living there for over 5 years. The reason why I'm running for council is because I like to help my community. I have been participating in the community for many years, and I've been living in Cambridge Ward 1 for over 5 years. And I think the moment is now. I've been participating in other community activities. The moment is now for me to come in to rescue my community that needs people like us that are energetic, that have the vision, that are agile to help the community grow.
There's a lot of key issues in my ward, but I think money is the biggest one that I'm hearing. We have our property taxes have increased. People are paying more in their water, utilities, and food, which also increases the taxes we pay. To increase our property taxes further is just burdening our overtaxed people. That's why I'm running, because I want to go line by line through the 2022 budget, 405 pages, and look for efficiencies and cut unnecessary spending.
Okay, thank you so much for asking that. The key issue in my ward right now is homelessness and affordability of homes. I think I would like to add to that, apart from the key issues that are there, we have the problem of inclusivity in my ward. When I walk out and I'm talking to people, a lot of people in my ward don't feel like they're involved in the community. I don't feel like they have that connection between the community or the constituent and the council. So I'm running to be that connector, that person that can connect the community and the council table.
There are many key issues in my ward, but the ones that I really want to center on are the corner of Fountain Street and King Street in Preston, where the Preston Springs Hotel used to stand. And I'm looking forward to an application coming in to have some development done there, and on the other corner have some development done, so that corner becomes a great entryway into the town of Preston. And I think that the other changes are going to mean that we have so much development in Ward 1.
The city strategy, what should the city strategy be in terms of development? And I think Ward 1 is so vast. It's very big ward that has businesses. The city strategy should be those who contribute, those who contribute to the city council should have equitable development of what their taxes that they contribute from their constituency are. I'm talking to many people, like when I'm going around, I've discovered that a lot of people complain to me that they don't have the services that they deserve. So there are environmental issues, there are traffic issues, there are other issues that we need to talk about on the city council that will represent my constituent.
That's a really interesting question when we go to strategies. Of course, housing is not something that the city does, it's something that the region does. But that doesn't mean we don't take care and we don't have some input into it. And we know that we have a crisis of homelessness and we need to deal with that. So, having affordable housing is really important. I know we and our council, we ask every developer, do you want to put affordable housing in here?
It is critical that we increase our housing stock, and that is done by drastically cutting red tape so developers and builders can put shovels in the ground faster. The more I talk to builders and developers, they're saying that they have so many surveys and tests and engineer costs, and all that is being passed on to the homeowner. We also need more input from the people in the city of Cambridge without excluding or compromising current town planning procedures or circumventing democratic processes which ensure citizens' rights are protected and heard. We have to also allow our city to grow organically so we have the resources we need to support business growth and the people.
I am thrilled that we are getting a CTS. I have been working towards that for a very long time. I did oppose our interim bylaw the second year that it was put in because I really didn't understand why we weren't going forward with a CTS. And I think that this will help us very much in the crisis that we have with homelessness, the crisis we have with opioid and drugs, and it allows us then to deal with the vulnerable people. It allows them to become comfortable with us in a non-judgmental way. So I am very much looking forward to it.
Safe injection sites are not safe. Offering a place to inject or free drugs is not a help. It keeps people constantly high, and with it, it creates a lot of medical issues. People have become addicted for many reasons, and they need true help. We should be putting more money into creating rehab facilities or places like Teen Challenge, a charity which I support, which would better support those facing addictions. I love their mission. It should be our mission. Our mission should be to help men and women overcome substance addictions to lead a full and productive life.
That's something that is a little bit controversial. You don't give someone, you don't call someone to give them drugs and then you want to treat them later. That's a very controversial issue that in my ward, which is Ward 1, many people do not support. And as a councillor, I will vote against that. A lot of people in my ward do not do not support CTS, the consumption and treatment side. It's like the city of Cambridge right now has a lot of opioids and drugs issue. The city should put its emphasis on trying to lower taxes, helping people have homes, creating jobs, not creating drug centers, and then you come in there with people to advise people to take drugs to treat them. So that's my point on that. And that's the point of many people that I talk to when I'm dividing my fires.
First, we need to show compassion. It breaks my heart when I see homeless people living on the streets. But homelessness occurs for many reasons, and each is different. Winter's coming and something must be done quickly. Yes, we need to get the homeless people from living on the streets or in tents, but to do so, we need more information so we can better understand how better to help them. We can't bundle them all together. We have to find out why they're homeless. Is it because of mental illness or because they lost their job and can't afford a place to live? Are all the homeless people from Cambridge, or have they come from surrounding cities and provinces? And if so, why did they come to Cambridge? We need answers for all this first before we can start addressing and helping them. But whatever the answer is, these are fellow people. We need to help them. It would be a crime against humanity not to do so.
That's something that I was looking at yesterday, trying to look at city council procedures on how they're helping the homeless people on the streets. In Cambridge, we do have a lot of homeless people. And that includes my ward, Ward 1. But what do? Those people that are homeless need homes. So I think the city should go on a strategy of trying to tax more on the greedy developers. I think that's one. Encourage people to donate to non-governmental organizations like United Way, or where the homeless people can get some food. The city should put in strategies that can take people off the streets, give them jobs. That's, I think, something that we should be looking at. And as a councillor, I'll vote for those strategies that will help people take people off the streets. Because people being on the streets right now, the streets are not safe.
Again, this is an issue that we have to work with others on. The region is responsible for housing, and we work with the region in order to have more housing. We know we're not going to have enough affordable housing in time, so we need to look at different ways of perhaps doing our shelters and different ways in which we can have places for people to stay so that they're not in encampments. We know that this homelessness is not something that can be done and can be solved overnight, but we need to start working on it, and we need to start working on it now.
I'm running for council. I've had 2 terms on council, okay, and the first term was a learning curve. You think you know certain things, you really don't, and it's to the point in the second term I managed to get more things done in the community, which are very important to the residents. And right now, I'm very, very concerned about what's going on in the community, not just Cambridge and not just my ward, but the region-wide. Homelessness is an issue. We really have to work on that. The opioid issue is a tough one, and like every other community, we have problems with traffic, with congestion, with people speeding, and people not really paying attention when they're in somebody else's neighborhood. Thank you.
Well, I just want to introduce myself. My name is Piyush Nanda. I'm an engineer, community leader, problem solver, and your future voice at City Hall. I'm running for City Council for a few reasons. The first is to be the voice of the residents of Cambridge Ward 2, so that those residents and the people of the rest of the city are well heard and the issues are fixed in a timely and efficient manner. My priorities as City Councillor are to make sure that housing becomes more affordable, the property taxes we pay are fair, and that businesses can prosper.
Well, I've always been interested in politics and I've followed it very closely. I've participated in a number of council meetings over the last few years, including before COVID, back when we had them in person. That was always fun. And I just feel that, the current council and our current elected representatives they're doing very little, if anything, on a lot of very important and crucial issues that our community faces right now. And I feel as though I am well suited to address those and put policies forward.
For me, the main issue in my ward is making housing more affordable. A lot of people are moving into the Ward 2, and the rest of the city, and people are finding it really difficult to find affordable housing for them and their family. So for me, making sure that in the ward, we make housing more affordable by increasing the housing supply. Where we can, put higher density housing, so more housing supply is available, and then we can decrease the housing price.
Well, a number of things come to mind. Of course, traffic is always a big thing. And I've outlined ways on my website and across other campaigns, not platforms, but where I have info, how I would go about taking care of that. And so there's that. And then we've also got housing affordability, which has become a major issue in the last few years. And that's, if I had to pick only one, there's a lot of things I would like to address, but if I had to pick one, it would be that.
Thank you for the question, David. The key issue in Ward 2 is rental property. It's rental property. We have a lot of single-family homes in Ward 2. We have, we're starting to get more and more townhomes. But there's not enough rental property. The people that have lived in that area for their life, and they're getting long in the tooth. They want to stay in the area, so they'd like to be able to rent a nice apartment that has walkability to downtown and to the shops. And that's the biggest issue. Number two will be traffic congestion. But that's everywhere. And the speed at some of the vehicles. Be honest with you, I'm almost to the point where I think photo radar is not a bad thing.
So I know through, attending council meetings, talking to people, all that fun stuff, a lot of people don't like the heights that we're seeing in some spots, particularly within the cores. I know the newer portion of the Riverbank Lofts development in downtown Hespeler, that was a big thing, a big issue, the height of that. I know the Cambridge Mill condos was pretty contentious. So the key to avoiding having to do that to get housing built is to really reform our zoning codes so that we can allow small scale development to get built in existing communities. That way we don't have to go with towers. We can have, small kind of apartment building-ish structures that look like homes, but can contain, upwards of 6 or 8 units.
The city strategy, it needs to be a broad-based strategy. When we talk about intensification, we have brownfield sites that we certainly have to have a real good, long, hard look at. A lot of these brownfield sites, they'll never be industrial operations again. All right, and a lot of those are in the downtown core. You take Sheffield Street in Hespeler, you take Beverly Street in Galt, you take Dundas Street. A lot of those will never be industrial again. So we need to look at the brownfield sites for intensification. And, there's a lot of lovely old buildings out there that can be repurposed for very good housing for people. And that's the direction we need to head. And intensification within the community, that's a given. That's a given. Thank you.
So that's one of the main focuses I have as a future city councillor, is to make sure that the city has a good strategy to make sure there's more affordable housing. The first thing we can do is, where suitable, make sure that we approve that land for higher density housing. So if a residential tower makes sense, doing the traffic studies and all the other reasons, if it makes sense, let's approve it. Let's not wait too long, because people need the housing. The second that I would advocate for is pre-approving land throughout the city. So if we see a plot of land and it makes sense again to do it, let's pre-approve it so developers can get construction started faster. So the main goal for CTS, in my opinion, is to make sure there's a safe injection site and consumption and treatment site for the individuals who require it. And the expectations I have is they provide a safe environment, an approachable environment, so the people who need it are encouraged to use it rather than resort to more unsafe ways on the street. So my expectations for Aqua to manage it are to make sure it's well run, it's approachable, and encourages individuals to use it.
Well, I mean, again, thank you for the question. The clearly a CTS has to have wraparound services. Okay, it's not just for the users to go in and do their business. There has to be wraparound services. There has to be rehabilitation. There has to be mental health. And I can go on and on and on. So in that location at 150 Main, there's enough space there to put in the wraparound services. I did vote for it as an existing councillor. I did vote for that particular location, and you know we're having people dying from overdoses, and these aren't just young people either. They're not the young folks. So we need the wraparound services, and we need them badly.
I know that was a very contentious issue over the last 4 years, and is probably going to be in this campaign, from what I hear. I've been fortunate enough to never need to use such a facility. So, you know, as a counselor, I can't really make decisions on, you know, what to do there. I think the best approach would be to talk to both experts, as we have been doing, but also to the people that are directly affected, sitting down face to face with those people, because you can have what they say regurgitated to you through an expert, but ultimately I think the face to face is really going to make a difference. But my expectations are reasonably high for the one at 150 Main. So here's hoping that that goes well.
Thank you for the question. I don't think it's just the city's responsibility. Okay, this is a national problem. This is a national crisis. It's bad in Cambridge. It's bad in Peterborough. It's bad in Kingston. It's bad in Ottawa. And I mean, I can name a bunch more. We have to have a national strategy for this, where we have the federal government, the provincial government, the region, and the cities working together to overcome these issues. And that's the only way we're going to resolve it. We can't keep putting Band-Aids on it. It has to be joint through all levels of government.
Yeah, this has always been and always will be a very tough question to answer. Excuse me, as a candidate or just as a human being. But I know Finland and numerous other cities and jurisdictions around the world have taken a housing first approach, which I've also talked about a little bit in other interviews and on my website and all that. So I think it's something we should explore. Whether or not we go through with that, we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. But oddly enough, Medicine Hat, Alberta is one of the communities that has taken that approach. So I think we need to work with various jurisdictions, or sorry, get in touch with various jurisdictions around the world who have done that and see, kind of what they would do differently next time around.
So homelessness has been an issue that is pretty close to me because throughout my life I have been engaged in helping the homeless, working at youth shelters, and even now I personally prepare sandwich lunches in my home and distribute it to the homeless in Cambridge. And when I talk to them, the main issue they have is shelters are fine, they provide a bed in need, but they're not the end-all be-all solution. What shelters should be doing is encouraging these individuals and helping them get back on their feet. So not just a place for a bed and a warm meal. While that's nice, that's good, that's admirable. But how can we help these individuals? Help them with their resume, help them with career prep, help them with understanding how to get rental housing so then they can support themselves. That, in my opinion, will help the homeless by helping them progress in their not being homeless and help the local residents.
I ended up having a whole whack of interactions with the city over the last little while. But I was really flabbergasted in particular when I found out that when I called Bridges, the homeless shelter, when I called the city of Cambridge, and I called the region of Waterloo's homeless helpline to help a homeless person, I found out that there actually is no beds or shelter available. So, if you or I were homeless tomorrow, we would be in serious trouble. So I realized that I had to actually do something. When I looked into it, we need some more leadership at the city level in order to deal with this problem and also make sure that we solve the cost of living crisis for people in the best way that we can within the city, making sure that we don't increase taxes on people in a time where we have groceries and gas increasing dramatically.
Wow. So I am running in this election because Cambridge is my home and I want our community to be the best that it can be. I want it to be accessible, vibrant, inclusive, and safe. It's the community where I grew up, and it's also the community where I'm raising my children, and I want it to be the best community possible for my grandchildren as well. We have a unique history, and we're at the point where we need to balance the Preston that we have all grown to love with what Preston can become in the future.
I've always taken very seriously my rights and my responsibilities in a democracy at all levels of government. So I vote in elections, I sign petitions, I write letters, and I think it's important to also be available to be the councillor who is, the point person, the representative. So I see it as a part of participation in democracy. I believe that I have heard concerns of citizens and my neighbors, and I have ideas and have done research that I think I can make a difference.
Ward 3 deserves a councillor who cares deeply for the future of this community. This ward and the city are facing many challenges, and I will be a strong voice for the residents, promoting positive results. For me, community involvement is something that I highly value and why I contribute my extra time and effort as a volunteer for many events and projects. Running for city council is a natural extension to this commitment. Communication, accountability, and transparency are important in maintaining public trust in council and will be a priority in my open door policy. As an elected public servant, municipal representatives are answerable to local communities. And I want to bring good decisions, making that benefits our community, all while respecting the taxpayer.
I'm running for council to bring accountability back to City Hall and to defend the taxpayer. For the last 4 years, if not more, what we've seen is an increase in spending at City Hall and city councillors who by and large don't want to push back. I'm running to have someone at the table to be able to push back against things and to not go with the flow, to stand up for the residents of Ward 3.
So the key issue that I find for Ward 3 in Preston is creating and maintaining a thriving community, specifically in our core area. And looking at how we can build the Preston core area up, we had 2 years of construction on King Street, our regional road, followed by 2 years where everyone was affected by the pandemic. So it's a time for us to get together and to reinvest in our community and to make it safe and vibrant, somewhere where people want to gather and get together, and to help our businesses prosper.
Well, I think for council, the relationship of council with the mayor and with the members of council is really, really important, to be highly functioning and working well together in a way that's responsive to what the citizens and residents of Cambridge regard as important, and also to each councillor's mandate. So in a really important function, council functions as a team. It needs to work together. So I think that element of true listening, participation, engagement with other council members, with the staff of the City of Cambridge, with citizens who would be in Ward 3. And also, I did have an opportunity recently to be part of a citizen subcommittee, and those are also important places for listening and hearing.
When speaking with residents in Ward 3, I hear many things. Everyone provides a little different viewpoint as to what their main concerns are. Overall, they're concerned with the lack of engagement with City Hall. They're feeling very unsafe in their downtown and on the trails and even their own homes. And where a buildup of traffic compounds congestion and speeding through their residential streets, I've noticed that these are the same or very similar concerns that were expressed during the last election, and it is disheartening to see that very little progress in these 4 years have happened. The issues of taxes, housing, affordability, crime, and safety extend beyond Ward 3 to the entire city. It's essential to address the current issues now so they do not spiral out of control and become unsustainable.
The key issue in Ward 3 is definitely affordability. I've already started door knocking, and we're hearing that at every door we go to. I am also a resident of Preston. I pay my property taxes. I saw the increase that we got at the beginning of this year, of January 2022, 4.24% was the increase in our property taxes. I propose to put a freeze on property taxes should I be elected to represent you in Ward 3.
I think there's a lot of stuff that we have to do in order to make sure that Cambridge is a more affordable and amazing city to live in. But the number one thing that I want to make sure that we tackle is our housing and homelessness crisis. The fact is that there's a lot of segments of the population that we have to make sure have a place to live, right? That's a fundamental thing. We're in one of the wealthiest nations on earth. We should not have 250 homeless folks just still having no choice but to literally be tenting in our parks and on our streets. It's really something that I know that as a just caring Canadian, we want to make sure we take care of, but it's also leading to people not feeling safe, walking their dog or taking their children to the playground. So that has a lot of meaningful impacts on people, and I think that it's the number one issue when I'm knocking on the doors that people definitely want solved.
Well, I think a few years ago, there was a lot of engagement and consultation for changing at a provincial level the development plans, and I am in favor of the idea of developing urban cores. So that we have dense involvement in the cores, so that we're not spreading out. Urban sprawl leads to losing farmland, losing green spaces. We don't want to do that. I also see that it's important for cities to be walkable, that people can be close to the amenities. So I think development needs to balance the needs to preserve farmland, to preserve greenlands, and also to make for a fine quality of life for the citizens and residents.
The reality of what can be done locally is obvious. Any type of increase to property taxes will be tacked on to the rental or listing price, making housing more expensive. By maintaining sustainable property taxes for residents, we will be able to have more money coming in than going out. Inadvertently, making living in our city more affordable, we need to spend less while providing the same amount of services, and reduce red tape and bureaucracy to expedite the process of building the housing we desperately require. We need to review and involve our local talent who can provide new ideas that promote new technology and methods that provide economical housing options.
The city should be working with the province and with the federal government. Right now, what we have is the federal and provincial governments putting rules in and targets in for a city which they by and large know nothing about. The Cambridge City Council should be fighting back with the province to say that here is what we need in terms of intensification. Another part to that is going back to the affordability issue. When you have high property taxes like we do in Cambridge, and a lot of people don't realize that in Cambridge, our property taxes are higher than in the city of Waterloo, where housing prices are higher as well. If we can freeze property taxes, we can control the cost of housing. We need to bring costs down, especially now when inflation is rising.
That's a great question. I think that we have to do a lot in order to make sure that we reduce red tape, get more shovels in the ground faster. You know, just yesterday, I spoke to a person at the door who actually is an architect, and they told me that it's taken them almost a year in order to get a building permit answer. And, you know, it's really unacceptable, especially when they're ready to put shovels in the ground. So we've got to figure that out for sure and reduce red tape. But we also need to make sure that we work together, especially with the region, because there's a lot of crossover between city roads and regional roads and development alongside that, in order to make sure that we can create the conditions for which people want to actually invest here. So, you know, right now we also have one of the higher tax rates in Waterloo region. So we're higher than Kitchener and Waterloo, for example. And the reality is that people actually look at that when they make development decisions. So there's a lot we need to do that's within City Council's control. And I think that, you know, we have to take action on increasing our housing supply.
So for the city's strategy, we have to look at providing a range of housing along the housing continuum. So looking at providing all levels of housing for people who require supportive housing, people who require housing for one individual, as well as housing for families, and also looking into what we can be doing to accommodate multi-generational families as people's aging parents get older and look to accommodate them within their homes. And that's something where the City of Cambridge has proactively worked on new policies that will allow granny flats in the background or sort of secondary units on the same property. And it's something where we have to work with individuals who are able to provide different types of housing and streamline the process and make it as efficient and effective as possible to provide a full range for everyone.
So dealing with the CTS, I think it'll ride in with this one for homelessness. From chronic homelessness to transitional homelessness to the hidden homeless, they are all in need of help, but the solutions are not the same. When you add in the addiction and mental health, unwillingness, and homelessness, the challenge is even greater in finding housing. We are not resolving the issue by directing all homeless to the same starting point and grouping them with those who are in need of extra care and treatment. We have to review our current intake process to complete an immediate review of the need of the individual person and then provide the best option. We require detox and mental health centers for on-demand treatment with longer-term support systems. Transitional housing can work if we have the proper follow-through to help people to improve and move towards permanent housing, and for them not to have to be in this transitional situation for the long term.
So when I was the member of provincial parliament for Cambridge for the last 4 years, I was very vocal on my stance with the drug injection site. I have always advocated against it. The city and the region did multiple consultations, and fortunately the results of all of those consultations were ignored. And they decided to put in an injection site at 150 Main, even though residents had asked it not go in, even though it goes against some of the provincial rules with regards to how close it is to schools and to daycares and to parks. What we need to do is listen to the community. The community has said that they understand that a drug injection site costs millions of dollars. Can we not utilize that money to actually help these individuals? Injection sites are simply a band-aid solution that politicians, like to go back to because it makes them feel good. It makes them feel like they're doing something, when in fact, you would never give an alcoholic more alcohol. Why are you giving those who are addicted to drugs access to drugs on the taxpayer dollar?
That's a great question, and that's certainly something that's on the minds of a lot of residents when I speak to them at the door. The reality is there's a lot of pros and cons, right? There's some pros around public health, so making sure we have fewer people who die due to overdoses, and also the reason why the AIDS Committee of Kitchener-Waterloo, Cambridge is actually doing as the operator of this site that's already been approved is because it's, sites like this are proven to reduce the amount of HIV/AIDS transmission in the community, and Canada, believe it or not, is actually one of the highest countries in the world in terms of the growth rate of HIV/AIDS. So there's a lot of good public health reasons to do this, but there's also potential downsides, and I think that that's been really expressed by a lot of members of the community. People are worried, it's less than, I think, 150 meters from a public school, for example, and people are obviously worried about having a new site that we're not really sure the ramifications of in and amongst their neighborhood and around their businesses. So my thought is it's already approved, it's already in the works. Let's review this after a year. Let's see the results and make sure that it's the right decision for Cambridge over the long haul.
It's a very good question, and certainly something that has been top of mind for many people. A CTS in our community will serve two purposes. It will provide care for the individuals who are currently using substances in the effort to hopefully save lives, and it will also provide a place for individuals, hopefully, to go that will eliminate some of the unwanted behaviors that we see throughout the community. As community members, we need to take care of our own, and we need to ensure that our CTS is not just a band-aid solution, and that it's also providing the wraparound care that individuals need. We need to make sure that individuals using the CTS have access to medical care, to counseling, to dental care, and to other things in a manner that is agreeable to them where they have a positive experience. And we want to make sure that we're always looking at our CTS and wondering if there is a different way or a better way that we could be operating it.
Well, my expectations are very high. I actually have long had a familiarity with the organization AQUA. If they were at one time a client of mine, although that's maybe 15 or 20 years ago, but it's an organization who has credibility. It's a nonprofit, and understands the issues. I also think it's important for safe injection sites to be accessible for the people who are going to need them. So it's a location that's been researched. It's going to work. I think it's important to have good, be good neighbors, and I think the management speaks well for that in the excess of other organizations. So it's something I support. It's something that I have every confidence will be successful, and that there'll be continuing dialogue as neighbors do.
Well, clearly the status quo is not working. The bridges is not working. Again, referencing my time as MPP, I heard complaints consistently about the bridges, about the situation in downtown Galt. Now, I realize Ward 3 is Preston, and we're not seeing it to the same degree, but that doesn't mean that the situation can't spread and can't grow. Clearly, these individuals are not being supported enough, and then you compound that again with affordability because of our high property taxes, with lack of affordable housing, with a lack of programming. This is a mess, unfortunately. We need to be supporting these individuals, and the way that we are currently doing it is not working. We need fresh ideas, fresh minds, fresh faces at City Hall to come up with new ideas to help support these individuals, while at the same time taking the residents of Cambridge into account. And I do hope that you'll vote for me for Ward 3.
I think making sure that neighbors do not have to sleep in our parks or on our streets is not in conflict with residents, right? I think that the needs of the homeless and the needs of residents are actually directly linked, in fact. So we have to make sure, first and foremost, that you or I or any of the 250 people in Cambridge have somewhere to actually sleep at night other than a propped up tent infrastructure by the government. So we have to figure that out. But then we also have to make sure that there's enough affordable housing supply. We work with different government agencies in order to make sure that we actually have a place for them to go other than temporary emergency use shelters, right? I actually went down and met with the Bridges leadership team, in fact, because I was very upset with what's going on, and I learned that nobody from the city is actually working with them and speaking with them about how to constructively solve homelessness. I care about this issue. I really want to make sure that we make changes, and the Cambridge Shelter Corporation is interested in working with the city, and the federal government also has a program to pay 30% of an expansion and or relocation of the shelter to make sure there's more beds available. So with that, I really want to make sure that we make a difference in Cambridge and solve this issue of homelessness and be a leader in Canada on homelessness. We should be one of the first cities in Canada to say that we can say that we've eliminated this homeless problem, and I want to make sure that I can contribute to that when I'm on council.
So again, when we look at individuals who are currently homeless and we look at homelessness within a community, it's our role as a city to ensure that we are doing everything possible to provide different levels of housing along the housing continuum. And whether that means that we're providing shelter for individuals or supportive housing or affordable housing, low-cost housing, smaller units, and looking at innovative ideas that we can use to provide housing. Is there a way that we can look at space that is perhaps already owned by the city or the region? And is there a way that we can incorporate some housing into those? Is there a way that we can look beyond what we're already doing and perhaps reach out to individuals with experience in providing different levels of housing and encourage them to bring their experience and ingenuity back to Cambridge so that we can provide the housing that we need?
I think everyone deserves and needs to have housing, to have a place to live. The national housing policy states in the preamble that housing is a human right, and I do believe it is a human right. And so what we want to do is prioritize making sure that affordable housing is available so that people have a place to live. I see that as really, really important. And of course, we have to deal with the reality that the land markets have to some extent been commodified, that rising land prices makes it really, really hard to have affordable housing available. There are some creative ideas like land trusts. Also, the importance of programs like Housing First.
So homelessness is definitely becoming a big problem in Cambridge. Again, I would reach out to, we've got builders in Cambridge that are capable to get small housing going. We've got prefab home in Ward 3 where I reside. We've also got container housing builders also in Cambridge. We need to look for these guys that maybe we can add them in to help us get homeless people into a shelter that is capable for them. But everybody has a right to live. We need to find extra housing, affordable. It all comes back to taxes. The higher the taxes, the less affordable housing, which puts more people out on the street and in these homeless camps.
Well, first, thanks to Rogers Cable for the opportunity to introduce myself to voters in Cambridge Ward 4. I'm a longtime resident of Cambridge, having come to the city to start my career in 1977. For the past 12 years, I've lived in Ward 4, just a stone's throw from the heritage downtown core of Galt. I have roots in Ward 4. I know its issues. Cambridge is entering a period of intense growth. City Council decisions taken in the upcoming term will reverberate for years to come. I want to participate in shaping the future of this community. If elected, I will advocate for thoughtful, responsible development that will accommodate the growth we expect, protect the heritage we cherish, create pleasant, walkable neighborhoods, and support a vibrant downtown. I believe that the skills I developed over a legal career that spanned over 40 years before my retirement have equipped me to be a strong and effective Ward 4 councillor.
I'm just a regular person. I punch a clock like everybody else, and I see the problems in Cambridge. I see that we're not working as a team in City Hall. We're not focused on the future. We're focused on today. Everyone is focused on the CTS sites, the opioid crisis. We need to be more than a one-issue city, and that's where I want to stand. I want to change that. We have more issues like parks and recreation, and more things for our kids.
I'm running for a councillor because I have been living in this ward and this city over 30 years. My business in this ward, especially in downtown area, over 20 years, and I speak to lots of people, and I know lots of issues in our ward, and I think I can speak for the people, so that's why I'm running for this position.
Thank you there for the question. Thank you for the viewers to take the time to research candidates in the upcoming municipal election. Also, thank you to Rogers for hosting this and allowing viewers to educate themselves on the upcoming election. I am running for municipal council because I do want to become involved in the process of decision making and shaping our city. We have a great city that we live in here, Cambridge. Ward 4 is an amazing ward. I want to bring, like 20 years of business experience that I have, 10 plus years of committee involvement at the city level, 15 plus years working with neighborhood associations with the bicycle rodeos, which was a focus for youth. I want to bring that experience that I have and the passion I share for the city forward to the residents of Ward 4 and to better Cambridge. Thank you.
One thing I want to work on is parks and recreation. Gordon Chaplin Park is one of the parks within Ward 4 that has been neglected. They use the cricket fields, the baseball diamonds, but the rest of the playground is neglected. They need a sprinkler pad, washrooms. There's only like a limited amount of garbage cans. But it's not just Gordon Chaplin Park. Soper Park has also been neglected, and so has many of the other smaller parks and within the region, well, within Ward 4. There's also several other issues that need to be addressed, but if I'm limited to one for right now, that is one of the biggest key ones that I see, because it's visual effects. If you don't like being around garbage or even the weeds in the flower beds or amongst the roadways, it's not appealing. And if you're not appealed to where you live, then you're not gonna care. And that's kind of where everyone kind of stands right now in Ward 4. They're not caring anymore. We got to bring it back.
Yeah, in my agenda, there are especially the crime, homelessness, actually CTS site in our ward, taxpayer, and urban development, especially downtown area. So we need to get some improvement on those parts.
I mean, essentially, they're all key issues. If I could focus in on one, I think I would focus in on homelessness and addiction if they could be lumped into one together. The past 4 years, I sat on the Cambridge Wellness Advisory Committee, both as a board member and vice chair, and there was some great work done within that committee. It was a great learning experience, and some great recommendations came forward from the subcommittees and the committee. So homelessness and addiction need a lot of work. We need provincial and federal partners with that. We need to ensure our downtown is safe for clients that are in need now, for the near neighborhoods, for businesses. We need to work with, the image of what our downtowns look like, or downtown looks like in Ward 4. We need to ensure that all stakeholders will be at the table in the discussions moving forward with any solutions that come out of the homeless and addiction situation.
Well, as I go door to door in Ward 4, I've been knocking on doors. The answer to that question that comes up most frequently is homelessness. Homelessness, of course, is a very complex issue, but I do have some ideas about how it might be reduced in the short and medium and long term. In the short term, we need immediate access to additional temporary shelter. In the medium term, I think that we could provide washroom and shower facilities in a secure and monitored location downtown. We could resume the foot patrols that were discontinued some years ago. And obviously, affordable housing is at the root cause of homelessness. So in the long term, we need to support developers and organizations that will build affordable housing and add to the housing units that are available for our homeless population in Cambridge.
For the more housing, actually affordable housing, we have to work with the region, province, and the federal government. We have to advocate with them to bring more housing. And also, yeah, we do need some more development. We need to grow. Cambridge is growing, and also we need to get some more housing in Cambridge.
So city development for intensification, I really believe that we need to protect our cores. We have a unique, vibrant core in each of the areas, especially Ward 4 downtown Galt. You know, a lot of people at the door, they really like the feel. They don't want to see tall buildings. So we need strategy to deal with intensification there. Look at the areas that have infrastructure currently that can handle traffic flow, that can handle services such as sewage and water. There are a few areas in town where we already have those. So can we build up there? Hespeler Road is a great example of a new business node that could be developed. There's potential for LRT. There's potential for active transit down there. So is that the area that we build in? For sure, because it doesn't take away from the feel of the core. You know, there's a lot of developers looking at Cambridge, and we need to make sure that the strategies we have moving forward will fit today and will fit for the future.
We are facing, as I mentioned in my introductory remarks, a strong growth in population. It's anticipated that over the next 20 to 30 years, our population will increase by 50%. Also during that time, the LRT will make its appearance in Cambridge, and we've seen the way that leads to growth and development in Kitchener and in other cities where an LRT has been built. So we're going to have densification. The important thing will be to preserve the heritage of our downtown while allowing that densification. It has to be planned. It has to work in a balance between the interests of the residences that are already in place and the heritage downtown buildings we have. But we definitely are going to see some more densification in and around the downtown outside the heritage downtown district.
Well, I've been following up and researching and watching a lot of the proposed planning and development meetings. I do understand that the Galt core has to raise its density from 77 plus jobs per hectare to 150 plus jobs per hectare within the next 30 years. Unfortunately, we have to go up. That's the only thing. But if we can't limit the developers. Without development, we're not going to have increased housing. Without increased housing, we're not going to have lower prices. You have to have supply for the demand.
Okay, so to my knowledge, it is set to approved by council, previous council, still within the process of approval with the provincial government. You know, so a kind of answer on that is a little premature, but expectations if it does open and comes forward. But like the Cambridge Shelter Corporation or the Bridges, they have a near neighbor policy, and the work that they do for the near neighbor policy has been good. You know, the complaints from the neighbors have been addressed, and clients of those establishments move along and try to keep the area clean. I think I also would expect them to be transparent in the amount of people that are receiving or will be receiving counseling and rehabilitation services, detox beds, the amount of overdoses that are prevented. Again, it's about getting people to rehabilitation. We have the 4 pillars. We need to make sure that that's the next step of the game.
Well, I've toured the one in Guelph, and I've seen the benefits of its operation over the past 4 years, and I support a CTS site. I believe it's a harm reduction initiative that saves lives. It's hard to argue with. I've spoken with the CEO of the Cambridge Hospital who supports it, and the Cambridge and North Dumfries Ontario Health Team also support it. That's a group of some 31 health and social service agencies. So it's hard not to support it. The location at 150 Main Street makes sense in the short term. In the longer term, I see it as being too Galt-centric, and I would advocate for a move of it and related social agencies to a campus located more centrally so that it can be accessed by all the citizens of Preston, Hespeler, and Galt.
Like I said, I don't want to be a one-issue candidate. I do agree that with Cambridge needs a CTS site. I don't think 150 Main Street is the ideal location. There's also an OTA Ontario treatment center there and a methadone clinic there. I think it's a bit of an oxymoron that a safe injection site is there. I think there's better locations. I thought of one already. That's if we leased a little bit of land from the parking lot at Babcock's and Wilcox. It's centrally located where the Ion is, stationed there, and I think, and it's not as many residents there as further from schools. I think it's an ideal location for a CTS site there. I don't think it was anything that was proposed, but I do believe we do need a CTS site.
CTS site, I would support a little bit, but not this location, especially downtown area. There is a school close by. Yes, there is, it says it's been better in the Waterloo and other cities, but still there is lots of homelessness, like people come over there, take the injection, go around. So, and it scares there with businesses in especially core area.
Well, I live just, as I mentioned, a stone's throw away from 150 Main Street, and I have seen the homeless issue as it's arisen in my area over the past few years. It's definitely led to some conflicts with local residents and some adverse results that come from such conflicts. In my own view, housing is the basis of addressing homelessness. And we have an acute shortage of housing in Cambridge right across the spectrum at all social levels. We need everything from sheltered housing, temporary shelter, affordable housing, supportive housing, all the way up to home ownership and everything in between. So for me, in the shorter term, I would advocate for a tiny homes community. I've seen how it works in Kitchener. I've studied how it works in other municipalities, and I see it as a means of addressing at least a part of the homelessness situation. That would be my primary focus.
Awesome. That is a big one. We have it right next door. There's encampments that are happening on Dundas Street. I don't disagree, but they need dignity. They need washrooms. They need a place to place their garbage. They're a mess. I think that where the old Joy Manufacturing building on Beverly Street would be a perfect place for a tiny homes location. There's not many residents right close by. It's business is across the street, and beside it, the CP Rails also shares the property. They can put a privacy fence up behind it for Soper Park. It's kind of like the Scott Mission in Toronto. They have a little bit of an encampment behind it, and there is a school that shares a fence line with the Scott Mission in Toronto, and they've had no problems there. They've decreased the amount of paraphernalia found within the parks.
The first part, I would say we need to increase more affordable housing. Another part, I would go with the tiny houses, and also we need more facilities. They can facilitate more homeless people in the city.
We continue with the direction from regional council. You know, one of the pieces that have come up lately is the managed encampments. Maybe that's part of the solution. Tiny homes, work with people that are willing, landowners, property owners that are willing to have tiny homes located on their properties. Make sure that security for any sort of encampments is first and foremost. And continue to investigate our accessory units, whether they are standalone or if they're attached to dwellings currently. Provide supports for landlords that are offering a tenancy for people coming out of a homeless crisis. Again, with the Cambridge Wellness Advisory Committee, the subcommittee on homelessness had some great recommendations coming forward. They didn't reach council due to the COVID pandemic that came through. Continue to advocate provincially at the events like the Big City Mayor, and work with your neighbors and clients in that the people that are suffering from homelessness.